A comment I wanted to make is that um, the Jewish firms, or the firms where Jews have prospered, uh, and this is of particular interest to me, is how Jewish were the lawyers who joined major firms? Were they active in Jewish life, were in Jewish organizations, and were they Zionists? And I'm sorry to say that I have to say that until relatively recently, quite recently, the Jews who were in the major firms did not involve themselves noticeably in Jewish life, and when they did, they were not involved in the Zionist side of what many of us traditional Jews would regard as Jewish interests. Many of you know that the Jewish community as a whole was very much divided on the subject of Israel until actually 1967. And until that time, there were many Jewish organizations. The American Council on Judaism was a non-Zionist, anti-Zionist. One of the leaders of the Jewish community, pardon me, Judge Proskauer, a venerable figure, was not active on the pro-Israel side of it. In fact, he led the American Jewish Committee in, I would say, an anti-Zionist movement. Louis Marshall, who was also head of the American Jewish Committee, was on the other side of the Zionist advocacy group in the split in the Jewish community. I don't think that's true anymore, and Jewish lawyers today lead all of the Jewish organizations, or are involved in all of the Jewish organizations, and I say conduct themselves, I think, in an extremely honorable way. But I count the social activism as starting mostly with the Civil Rights Revolution, maybe the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The bar associations organized the Lawyers Committee for Equal Rights under law. That was not Jewish, but I would say there were many Jewish lawyers and non-Jewish lawyers who took an interest, but many did not. One small vignette: in about 1990 or 89, I had a call from Milton Gould, who was a very prominent, excellent Jewish lawyer, the leader of the Shea and Gould firm, which doesn't exist anymore, but he was probably at the top of certainly the bar, but plus the Jewish bar. He told me that the presiding justice of the appellate division, Tim Murphy, was interested in the Holocaust, that Tim Murphy, not exactly a Jew, but he was the presiding justice, felt that the Holocaust and the events in Germany were the product of the failure of law, the failure of lawyers to advocate the law, the failure of judges to enforce the law, and that the Holocaust would not have happened had the law been observed. And so he wanted to do something. This is the appellate division in New York. If you go up on Madison Avenue at 25th Street, you'll see a beautiful Rococo building. And he felt that the legal profession ought to be identified as being aware of the Holocaust and to show an appreciation, in other words, a memorial for the Holocaust. And he asked some of his friends to organize a group to lead that. And so I had a call from Milton Gould, who was Jewish, and his partner Bill Shea, who was not Jewish, and Dennis McInerney, who was a senior partner at Cahill Gordon and happened to be Tim Murphy's brother-in-law, who told me how interested the judge was and how he wanted it done. And so we organized a committee to go out and to conduct a competition in New York City for an architectural rendering which would do something at the courthouse. To make a long story short, and I know I'm out of time, to make a long story short, we put a committee together, and we went out to all the law firms to raise the money to make a Holocaust memorial exhibition in New York that was supported by the city of New York, who ran an art competition and for selection of whatever architecture or sculpture we selected. We had a very difficult time raising money from among the big law firms. The number of law firms who gave us any significant amount of money, at that time 5,000 was a significant amount of money, you could be counted on the fingers of one hand. And most of the money that came from to build this came from Tim Murphy, who had connections with various foundations. And I urge you to go up and look at Madison Avenue and 25th Street, the cornerstone of the Appellate Division, has a beautiful soaring marble rendering of Auschwitz and the flames of the ovens, and based entirely on the leadership of a non-Jewish Appellate Division presiding justice. It was a time not so long ago when it was very difficult to get that kind of support from the Jews who were actively practicing in the big firms. Today, it's 100% different. And so I just want to say my conclusions from the phenomenon about the presence of Jews, for which we're all very grateful, in the major firms, to me, demonstrates that if a society removes the barriers of discrimination and opens the channels of opportunity for education and advancement, Jews can compete in the marketplace of ideas, scholarship, and professional activity. Law is not the only calling where Jews have seized these opportunities. But it seems to me it should not be claimed that Jews have some genetic or cultural secret which affords us an advantage over others. Instead, it speaks well, in my mind, about the prospects for success of those whose history, family structure, cultural and yearning support and nourish the opportunity for learning and are given the opportunity to excel. We are fortunate as Jews that we've had that opportunity in this country, and I'm confident that others who are given that opportunity would give us all a run for our money. Thank you.